AITA for leaving my friend behind. When she was bitten by a snake during our island vacation, I have been friends with Julia since high school. We've always been close, though our friendship isn't without its bumps. Julia is the adventurous type, always pushing me out of my comfort zone, while I'm more cautious and reserved. When she suggested we take a girls' trip to a remote tropical island, I was hesitant. Julia had found the destination through a travel blog, a hidden gem with pristine beaches, lush forests, and barely any tourists. It sounded idyllic, but the isolation worried me. There was no hospital nearby, no cell service, and we'd have to rely on a local guide to get around. Julia brushed off my concerns, saying, "Come on, live a little. It'll be an adventure." Against my better judgment, I agreed. The first few days were everything Julia promised. Sunset swims, hiking through untouched trails, and lounging on empty beaches. We stayed in a small, rustic cabin with a local guide, Marco, who was friendly but blunt about the dangers of the island. "You have to watch your step in the forest," he warned. "There are venomous snakes here. If you're bitten, you'll need anti-venom immediately." Julia laughed it off. "What are the odds?" she said. "We'll be fine." On the fourth day, Julia wanted to explore a secluded part of the island that Marco had explicitly advised against. "That area's too risky," he said. "The terrain is rough and the snakes are more common there." But Julia was insistent. "We came all this way to explore, not sit around," she said, rolling her eyes at Marco's warnings. "If you're scared, you can stay behind," she added, directing the comment at me. Feeling pressured, I reluctantly agreed. The hike was grueling, with overgrown paths and uneven terrain. I was on edge the entire time, scanning every step for movement. Julia, on the other hand, was carefree, snapping photos and laughing at my paranoia. Then it happened. I heard Julia scream, a blood-curdling sound that sent chills down my spine. I turned to see her clutching her leg, a small snake slithering away into the underbrush. Her face was pale and tears streamed down her cheeks. "I think it bit me," she cried. I froze, my mind racing. Marco's warnings about the venom echoed in my head. I ran to her side, trying to stay calm. The bite mark was already swelling, and Julia's breathing was shallow. "We need to get back," I said, my voice trembling. Julia nodded weakly, but the trek back was agonizingly slow. She could barely walk, and every step seemed to drain her strength. I tried to support her, but the dense forest and her increasing weight made it almost impossible. At one point, she collapsed, unable to go any further. "I can't," she gasped. "I need help." I was faced with an impossible choice: stay with Julia and risk both of us being stranded or leave her to get help. "I'll go get Marco," I said, my heart pounding. "I'll be back as fast as I can." "No, don't leave me," Julia pleaded, her eyes wide with fear. Tears streamed down my face as I promised her I'd return quickly. "You'll be okay," I lied, knowing full well I had no idea how much time she had. I ran faster than I ever thought possible, my lungs burning and my legs aching. The guilt of leaving her behind clawed at me with every step. By the time I reached Marco, I was sobbing and barely coherent. He grabbed medical supplies and we sprinted back to Julia. When we found her, she was semi-conscious, her face pale and her body trembling. Marco acted quickly, administering first aid and carrying her back to the cabin. We radioed for emergency help, but it took hours for a boat to arrive. By the time Julia reached the mainland hospital, she was in critical condition. Julia survived, but the venom had caused lasting damage. She was furious with me for leaving her. "You abandoned me," she said when I visited her in the hospital. "I begged you not to go, and you did anyway." I tried to explain my reasoning, but she wouldn't hear it. "You cared more about saving yourself than staying with me," she snapped. "Our friends are divided. Some say I did the right thing by getting help, while others agree with Julia, saying I should have stayed with her no matter what. Now, Julia refuses to speak to me, and I'm left questioning whether I made the right choice.